The regular meeting of October 23rd, 2013 to order. Linda, all members are present, so we have a full contingent tonight. Our first item for approval would be the consent agenda with Superintendent Benton.
Good evening, everyone. Before we get to the consent agenda, I'd like to ask for a moment of silence over the tragedy that happened in Danvers in the past 24 hours. A young, bright, talented, dedicated young teacher, Colleen Ritzer, as you all know, was murdered, and we all send our sympathies to both the Andover and the Danvers community. She was a 2007 graduate of Andover High School and a 2011 graduate of Assumption College. Lisa Dana described her as the perfect teacher, in that she was accessible to students, loved what she did, and when they say one is a born teacher, she filled that definition, and it's a tragic loss for all of us. So a moment of silence, please.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to close off that section by just reading something that she tweeted out on August 13th. Quote, "No matter what happens in life, be good to people. Being good to people is a wonderful legacy to leave behind." And she certainly did, to all of her students. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Benton.
Now to the consent agenda. We have two items on the consent agenda: the approval of the minutes of the October 9th school committee meeting regular session, and warrants FS04, FS05, R204, G403, and payroll 10913.
Thank you. We found a way to rectify this a little bit, so we will, at the next meeting, we'll have a consent agenda that we'll just go through, and then the warrants that some of us can't, that the three of us can't find, we'll put them separately at the end, and we'll do them 1, 2, and 3, so hopefully we can clean this up a little bit. But I'd accept a, let me see, approval of the minutes for October 9th. Yes, Mr. Muglis.
I make a motion to approve the minutes of October 9th, 2013 regular session.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Dr. Quick. All those in favor? Unanimous, Linda. No, sorry. One abstained. Mrs. Bonish. Okay. Okay, warrants FS04, FS05. Mrs. Burns.
I make a motion to approve warrants FS04 and FS05.
Okay, thank you. Second, Dr. Quick. All those in favor? Okay. One abstain, Mrs. Carroll, 5 in favor, 6 in favor. Okay. And the last one, the next one, R204, G403. Dr. Quick.
Motion to approve warrants R204 and G403.
And do we have Mrs. Bonish? All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. And the last one, payroll 10-9. Do we have right there? Mrs. Bonish.
I make a motion to approve payroll 10-9-13.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Mrs. Broussard. All those in favor? 5 in favor, 2 abstain, Mrs. Carroll and Mrs. King. Thank you. We did this. Good. Okay, our next item of business is our student representative report with Jessica Caspary.
Hi, thank you.
Hi, Jessica.
So last week was Spirit Week, and the senior class 2014, decided that each day they would honor a different group of people. One day there was the administration, one day there was the cafeteria staff and the custodians, another day there was the secretaries, and another the crossing guard. Also, an art class, an honors grade 10 English class, Mrs. Strata's class, and a 12A English class got together, and they went to the senior citizens' home across the street, and they decided to interview them and do essays about certain citizens over there, and they're drawing portraits of them in the art classes. And that was inspired by Tuesdays with Maury, and they're writing it in a memoir style, in like a narrative. On last night, October 22nd, there was a college fair at the Shriners Auditorium. October 26th is Battle of the Bands, which is hosted by CATS, Choral and Theater Support Group. November 1st, the term ends, and November 1st is Senior Night for Strings Attached.
Excellent, thank you. Do we have any questions? I'd just like to say that I had asked about the senior citizen collaboration because I happened to be over there at that time, and there was all this noise in the corridors, in the classrooms, all through the senior center, laughing. So when I looked out the door, there they were. It was because it was Spirit Day, the kids were all dressed up in their blues and whites and things on their cheeks, and they were so happy. There were 2 English students and 1 art student with each of the people. And they were so excited to share their lives. And the fact, I think this is exactly what Mrs. Benton's telling us about authentic learning, 21st century learning. There's so much involved in this project, and they all walked over. And in fact, one of the teachers happens to be expecting twins. And she walked over too. She wasn't lagging behind. They all took her on the way back. And they were so excited. And this is how we get out into the town, and the town gets to know. The seniors would probably very rarely have interaction like that with the students. And so I just wanted to thank everybody involved in that project. And I hope when it's done, maybe they'll come by and show us what the result was. But did you find out, Jessica, by chance, has this been done before?
I believe it hasn't. I've never heard of
That was
the
first
English
year.
and art departments
First year.
collaborating.
Yeah, first year. Good, great.
And also there will be a showing of all the portraits and the essays in November.
Oh, excellent, excellent. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jess.
We're gonna say, thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you.
See you soon. Okay. Now we have the superintendent's report.
3 items on the superintendent's report, just a personnel update. And next, an important event. This evening, we have some guests with us this evening, Paul Cardillo and Robert Reagan, who are with the iPods for Wounded Soldiers and the Dear Soldier program. If you'll recall, I think it was last year that we honored Kristen Taza, or was it 2 years?
Year and a half ago.
Year and a half ago. One of the teachers at the Woodman Street School who first got involved in it, and Paul came to me this year and asked if we could expand the program, and he's here to honor some of our staff this evening. So I welcome 2 really unsung heroes, plus Ron and Don, I understand, also are part of this group. This group is totally nonprofit. They have do this all volunteer time, and the work that they have done has been inspiring to me. Paul's gotten me to volunteer now to get involved, so I'll turn it over to Paul.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak in front of the Wilmington School Committee. My name is Paul Cardillo. I'm a 38-year resident of Wilmington, United States Air Force, Vietnam veteran era. Served 18 months in Guam on the B-52 bombers. With me is another Wilmington resident, United States Coast Guard, Vietnam era, Robert Reagan, and we started the iPods for Wounded Veterans program, and the offshoot of it is the Dear Soldier program. So about 2010, we had a bus trip to all the veterans from Wilmington and Merrimack Valley, went and saw all the memorials, but we had an offshoot to go over to Walter Reed Hospital to see the most severely injured soldiers, and we saw, unfortunately, we only had 37 iPods, and there was 82 of them there. So what happened was, 72 hours later, we got a call from Admiral M.L. Nathan, said we inspired the troops, and he wanted us back in 5 weeks. And I said, we didn't have enough the first time, so in 5 weeks, we raised $6,000 and went down there with 82 iPods and made sure everybody got one. But in the 5 weeks, there was more soldiers coming in, so we didn't see half the group. So then we got another call from the armed forces, and they says, would you like to see if you can start a letter writing campaign from the school children? So we went to the Woodman Street School. My grandson Tyler Cardillo was in Christian Taza's class, and she developed this program called Dear Soldier. And this is kind of like her offshoot, which kind of like we designed on it. It says made especially for you, the grades at school in Wilmington, Mass. And then it says, Dear Soldier, and they write their letter and they sign it. And then they fold it over and they draw like the American flag on it. They put stickers on it. So Christian is kind of like a catalyst. This is why we're here tonight. It's a celebration of a first grade class of 16 students. And it's kind of like amazing that I'm going to say this. A week and a half ago, we went to Walter Reed amputee section, the Valley Burn Unit, and then we went over to Fort Belvoir to the Brain Injury Unit. We went down with 4,150 school letters from 17 different school systems from Massachusetts and Connecticut. This Wilmington school system is from grade 1 to the Honor Society in the high school. 2 years ago, we had Caitlin Casala as a junior, was named Student of the Year for Wilmington High by the United States Army. If you read the Town Crier or the Wilmington Advocate this week, in the letters, the editor section, we have 2 letters published called Hero Mail. Both are going to be nominated by the United States Army as Student of the Year. Sylvan Man, and then we have 8 errands, which Joanne and I are trying to figure out which one Erin wrote that other letter, so we're working on that. I can't thank enough. I've met with Superintendent Joanne Ben about 8 times in the last 3.5 weeks, and we're trying to give the full backing to expand the program from a school to the entire school system. It takes a tremendous effort. So what Joanne has done, we have private schools, public schools, and the offshoot of Wilmington High, and now we have a Catholic school division. For what Wilmington High has done, Malden Catholic is involved, and they wrote 440 letters. So we have educators from all over the country looking at this school system. Believe me, I get calls from Washington all the time, and they're trying to understand how we went from 16 letters to 4,000 letters in less than 3 years. But we've had the response is like unbelievable with these letters. Our cameraman is doing this, is Don Laird. We had a brain injury soldier a week and a half ago. He had his 2 children there, 2 girls, a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old. We gave a stack of letters to him, and Don got it on camera. He read the letters to his 2 girls. It's a very poignant moment about this program. So it all goes back to the Woburn Street School and back what Christian developed to expand this. And now we bring in Kerry Sheehan, who we asked to make a poster of a tractor trailer to go to Teamster Local 677. Well, they were so impressed with what the students did there at the Woburn Street School. They put it in a 24 by 36 frame, and when you walk in their hall, that's the first thing you see. It's hanging on the wall. So in effect, that poster led to 2,000 letters from Connecticut, from the Woburn Street School, because that's how we started in Connecticut. So IPOD's for Wounded Veterans Dear Soldier program is the Teamsters and the VFW merging together to create this. We have a Class A security clearance from our State Representative Jane Maselli, so we can go see the hospitals. And our board of directors are 4 Vietnam veterans, and the other person, his father was a World War II pilot. He's 92 years old. So I've talked to Joanne about this, and it's kind of like inspiring what has happened here. It's going so fast, we feel like we're on the Acela train here, that we can't keep up with it. So we've kind of like developed a new thing. This is our new letter. I want to recognize a Wilmington a company called Boston Creative Design, put their heart and soul into this. This is our new letter for Wilmington High School with our new logo. And his name, the president is Bill Gallagher. He personally took on this project. And that's going to be our new letter for the students at Wilmington High. This other one will be for the rest of the school system. If we can coordinate this. And it'll have the Wildcat logo, and that'll take the rest of the entire school system. This one is Catholic School Division, and that's Malden Catholic. So we expanded, and now we've gone to a Fortune 100 company. Everybody knows what BOS is. Their employees are writing letters to the troops. We've had meetings, never mind you get a meeting with a vice president of BOS, but they have 2 of them within 9 days. It's kind of like unbelievable. The place of business is called The Mountain in Framingham. It stands atop, it overlooks the Mass Pike. There's like 15 buildings. But they become one of our big backers, and they're our Medal of Honor sponsor. We contribute a lot. They want to make sure all the Massachusetts soldiers are taken care of. And it's an offshoot of this town, and Peggy said about the senior center. Well, the seniors took it upon themselves. I'm wearing 2 bracelets here, beaded bracelets. One represents the amputee section of Walter Reed. This represents the traumatic brain injury unit at Fort Belvoir in Virginia. I'm also wearing the 9/11 memorial, which I just came back from New York. The seniors, every Wednesday, makes these bracelets. We sell for $5 a piece. All the proceeds go to veterans. We had no idea how big this would become part of our program. We went to the amputee section. We gave them out to the mothers and daughters. Now the amputee soldiers wear them all, and so don't the brain injury. So now we have to go to Washington with at least 250 of them. So I just want to thank everybody in this community. You know, when we started, it's real small. We got calls from other parents from other schools, well, coming this school couldn't do it and that, but we couldn't coordinate it all because it was just way too fast. But, you know, really, Christian has been recognized, but it's kind of like her idea that snowballed. If you told me from October 2010 to October 2013 that we would have 4,150 letters, I would never believe it. But we're committed to the troops. We're going back December 5th to the 9th. This is kind of like our Christmas trip. And the sad part about it, we saw 200... From May and on May trip in October, we saw 297 severely injured soldiers. We have 4 severely injured soldiers from Massachusetts, 3 with brain injuries, and 1 with severely damaged legs. But they are getting the best treatment. So this is kind of, tonight is for us, it's a celebration of the school system and what it has done. Like I said, I've been meeting with Joanne constantly. So Joanna, we might as well make this announcement. Veterans Day weekend at Barnes & Noble in Burlington. We had our first non-school organization for 3 days. We're going to have the Barnes & Noble Book Fair. And from 9 to 6, and on the side, you'll see a little coupon with the ID number on it. You go up to the register, you give them the ID number, and 10% of the proceeds go to iPods, which in turn will buy e-readers and Nooks and tablets towards the troops. You can go online and just use that number, and you can do the same thing online. So that led into this. We got approached by Barnes and Noble. They considered us to write a book, Letters to the Soldiers. So now that's a project down the road, but that's where we're going with this. They want us to seriously consider this, and it's just a thing what these letters inspire, these drawings inspire to the troops. This photo you have in front of us, the word faith, that's what happened. This soldier, our first soldier we ever saw is from Stoneham, Massachusetts. His right leg was amputated. We just couldn't believe it. He was from Stoneham. And I said, we're 5 miles away from you. We live in Wilmington. So we couldn't believe it. So it's kind of like faith. The brochure you got, he's our poster child. He's all over the internet and on our website and everything else. But we want to celebrate the school system. Also, we have T-shirts that we're 50% of the proceeds, I believe. Joanne has that. It's the new City of Champions, just in time for the Red Sox, and the back says Dear Soldier on iPods. I'll be going out, and we'll have things on that. But why don't we start this quickly? I just want to thank everybody, all the parents, all the students that put thoughts in this. And if you, Sylvan Mann's letter and Erin, they really sat down and thought what they wanted to write to a soldier. If you read it in the newspaper, you put a lot of thought, and so didn't Caitlin Kinsella. When we got the phone call that, Caitlin was named Student of the Year by the United States Army with the Wounded Warrior Transition Group, it's highly credible. So we have a student, and we have Christian Taza from this school system. Yeah, we're talking the United States Armed Forces here, not just one branch that's been recognized in this school system. So, Bob, why don't you talk quickly about the brand-new $1.3 million hospital that all your tax money went to, that they built down in Fort Belvoir, Virginia?
And we were fortunate enough on this last trip, although we've been to the Fort Belvoir Hospital many times, we were fortunate enough to get a tour of the complete facility. That hospital opened in 2011. It's a $1.3 billion building, 103 million square feet of hospital space, room, surgical suites, things of that nature, physical therapy suites, all of that. We've been in there half a dozen times now since it opened, I think. And, we always get a very good reception when we go there, especially when we are giving out the Dear Soldier letters, which I'll just comment on briefly. When we walk into a room with the other things that we bring down, the iPods, MP3 players, things of that nature, and give a soldier, man or lady, a handful of these Dear Soldier letters from school kids, they're just blown away by the fact that school kids somewhere in Wilmington, Massachusetts, is taking the time to think of them, write these letters, and they begin to read them, and it gets emotional. And a lot of times, the family members are there. We usually go on weekends. The family members are there as well, and it's a very emotional thing when they start reading these letters. It means something to them in the heart. It really does. I often say that for a person in any of the armed forces, they have what they call a mail call day, usually at the different bases. And that's something that the soldiers look forward to, receiving a letter from home, from a wife, a daughter, a parent maybe. And the days come and go, and some days you don't always get mail, and it's kind of a little disheartening when you're on duty. But when you're in a hospital for months, and in a lot of cases years of physical therapy, trying to recover from these tragic kind of injuries we're seeing today coming back, a letter from anybody means an awful lot. A lot of those guys we see and women are from all over the country. They don't have family nearby that can get there to see them. They could be and are in the hospital room in a bed for weeks at a time. And it's a difficult thing to even, for any civilian to get into these hospitals. As Paul mentioned, we need a Class A security clearance. We had a soldier from Wilmington just a couple of years ago,
Right.
came back from Afghanistan, went to Walter Reed, and his mother, although she lives here in Wilmington as well, worked with Lou Samaglia to get the necessary permission, if you will, to go visit her son in the hospital. So it's not an easy thing to get access to these military facilities. And the individuals there and the families are just totally blown away. When they see us come in, they know well ahead of time we're coming, and they don't have to see us. It's up to them. It's their choice. Do they want us to come in today or not, how they're feeling, that kind of thing. But it really, I got to tell you, it gets very emotional. And a big aspect of that has turned out to be the Dear Soldier letter writing project. Paul mentioned when we were down there a couple weekends ago, we brought over 4,000 letters, and we left them between the two facilities. We left them there. We're coming home. We drive down in vans, rented vans. We're coming home on the New Jersey Turnpike. I was driving. Paul got a phone call from a major, maybe in the Army down there, and said, you know, we need more of those letters. Don't stop bringing these letters down. We can't let the the soldiers down, the encouragement they get, the emotional uplift that they get from these things. You have to bring more of these down. So that's how much it truly means to these guys.
Yeah, what he said is we must not let the spirit be broken. We have to remind them that the private sectors out here, that, they're not forgotten. We're talking a long rehabs. We're talking the amputees on a long rehab. So we have, a goal. We set the bar high. I talked to Superintendent Benton, and we're trying to get 4,000 here in 5.5 weeks. But I just got a call from Teamster Local, I think it's 79 in Miami. We got 500 letters coming up from Dade County school system. So what has happened here is that Dear Soldier is taking us from a regional program to a national program, because we have 250 sponsors across the United States of America now, as far away as Camp Verde, Arizona, and all up and down the East Coast. So from a regional program to a local program, now to a national program. We speak to national conferences, United States and Canada, from the Teamsters. I'm a retired Teamster, and I have 15 speaking engagements that they book, and I've already done 37 of them, and 18's been schools. November 8th, I'm in Connecticut at Ansonia High School and the rest of the school system. We've been in Connecticut television from Memorial Day. It's been broadcast 7 times, public television down there. So it all comes back to Wilmington. This name is all over New England now. It all comes back to this school system. All right, so we're going to make some presentations. They've been long overdue. So we need Christian Tauser and Kerry Sheen to come up here to accept this for the Woburn Street School. And we're going to find that should be Woburn Street, right? And I'll unveil it, and we're going to unveil this. This is kind of special, Bob. Why don't you get up here, and we're going to have to pull this together, give it to him. It's kind of like special made. This is something, like I said, Bill Gallagher really went long and hard, but here, Bob, why don't you get on here? We'll unrail it. Hopefully we got the right end up, right? No, we got it upside down.
Upside down?
What? There it is. That's congratulations.
Wow.
Beautiful.
You never thought you'd be on a banner, huh?
Carrie and I will.
You got all the students smiling, that's for sure. But really, Kerry and Christian are like the catalysts. Kerry's poster, 2,000 letters from Connecticut. So congratulations to the Woburn Street School and everybody associated with it. We can't thank you enough. So you gotta thank Bill Gallagher of Boston Design Center. He found that picture and he put it on a banner for you.
Swing it around so these folks can see.
Yeah, so we can show
Paul,
everybody
can we
else.
get the next group up? Paul, the next group up?
Yeah. Okay, can we have, is Chris Fry here?
Yes, he is.
Wilmington,
Middle school.
Wilmington Middle School right here. That should be middle school. Should be the middle school. Chris has developed a program with the Wilmington Middle School. From our screen readers, it is the top middle school in all the schools. They've written the best letters there. He's been a real proponent on this. So he's going to accept this for the middle school. This is different.
Oh, really?
And congratulations to Chris. He's been a real proponent of this program, and he's really got everybody involved at the middle school.
Chris, you have to help me out. We have 4,000 in 5 weeks. Okay. All of you do.
We're already working on it.
I got the stationery.
Okay. Can we have Hope from the north? Is Hope? Hope here? Hope went out and had a fundraiser for this program. I believe it's $298 that they raised. And Hope, what kind of fundraiser did you have?
They could wear any Boston sports gear to school and make a minimum of a $1 donation.
So what would $298 bring? They would bring 5 iPods and 2 MP3 players.
Whoa.
So that's 7 electronic devices that the North raised. Well, you have a special banner, Bob. Why don't you unveil this one? Because everyone's different.
Something like that, yeah.
And
Excellent.
Linda Peters from the high school.
They know they were getting one?
Linda went above and beyond the call of duty. She went out and personally sold 10 bracelets. So let's give her a nice round of applause. Didn't have to do that, but she did. Also, Dawn Martell is selling 20 bracelets for us. But Linda's going to accept new high school banner. And Linda and Bob, why don't we unveil that? Hopefully we got it right side up. Yeah, we.
Yeah, they could. Yeah. Oh, very nice.
Congratulations to all the schools. They've really distinguished themselves. And I also want to thank Robert Apolloni from Shawshene and Dennis Shaw from the west. Hopefully we can get down there. We have 4 schools, 2 schools on Friday and 2 schools on Monday. Whatever superintendent can work out where we're going, I don't know yet. She will call me and definitely tell me where we're going. But congratulations to everybody at the Wilmington school system. Like I said, Joanne and I set the goal at 4,000 in 5.5 weeks. I do not know whether we can get it, but we're going to shoot for it. I just can't thank, this is kind of saying from all the veterans, because they're under the military HIPAA laws and they really can't talk. It's inspiring for us to go down there and see them. And what they say, you really came from Wilmington, Massachusetts to see my son who comes from North Dakota, and they can't believe it. And I says, well, you served our country. We're here to support you. So I just can't tell you enough what this town has meant to the Pentagon and all the United States Armed Forces down there. Believe me, they know what Wilmington, Massachusetts is. They know what Billerica is, and they know what the Merrimack Valley is, and they know what Lowell is. But the program, Dear Soldier, now we have private, public, and Catholic. So we're shooting for the moon here. Here we go on a fast run. We have a meeting tomorrow with St. John's in Shrewsbury, and I believe Austin Prep is coming on board. So that's where we're going with that. So if any school committee member knows any other school system, we need 4,000 letters by December 1st.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Robert.
Just thanks a lot. Appreciate
you.
everything.
Thank you.
Book fair, Barnes and Noble, Veterans
Oh, yeah,
Heritage.
remember that. Thank you so much. The fifth graders are really into making those bracelets. Maybe they could do something.
Okay, the next, last thing in my report is just the executive director's report from the SEAM Collaborative. Now we're on to old business.
Okay, our next item of business, old business, elementary enrollment for October 1st.
In your packet this evening is the official October 1st enrollment for the elementary schools. If you notice, we had a decline at Shawshene in the first and third grades. We had an increase, a very large increase at the Wildwood, and a smaller increase at Boutwell and Woburn Street. We had a decrease of 40 students. At the north, a decrease of 10 students. In the west, an increase of 31 students. So the total elementary population shift this year really, as I said at the last meeting, took us a little bit by surprise at the Wildwood. So we'll use these numbers in our budgeting for next year.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions on this? That's it. Thank you. Okay. New business. We're on new business. The district and school improvement plans.
Massachusetts law requires that all schools and districts provide an annual school improvement plan. This year, you will notice in the presentation that Dr. Berman has prepared with all of the principals is a different format. And you should recognize all the goals because they are the goals that I brought forth to you last week. And if you could see all of the principals' goals, they would be the same goals. The new teacher evaluation system calls for us to have a concerted effort to focus on data-driven goals that are measurable and can be readily accessed. So I'd like to acknowledge and turn it over to Dr. Berman for the presentation.
Dr. Berman.
Oh, she's got a question.
I just had a quick question, and generally speaking, this might be the better time to ask. In noticing that, of which you speak, I had some concern, and I didn't know the reason behind it. I'm sure you had an answer for me. The lack of a social-emotional goal or piece in with these school improvement goals, and in taking of recent happenings this week alone, in what's coming down the pipeline with assessments and things of that sort, I am concerned for both staff as well as especially students' emotional well-being as these assessments upon assessments, because we know it's always a high anxiety time of year. I didn't know, is there a way that could be built in some capacity?
Well, it is built in all the schools. With our, formally, at least 3 ways I can think of off the top of my head. Our anti-bullying program, which incorporates the Kindness Week program and throughout the school district, through our health education program at the elementary level, which has a strong social-emotional curriculum piece intertwined into that, and through the clubs at the high school that continually promote. Friday is asking everyone to read for the Students Against Drunk Driving. I mean, there are constantly weekly activities going on. When Principal McMiniman presented the calendar a couple of meetings ago around the anti-bullying, there are activities throughout the year, so we are not letting that go. That is certainly a strong focus.
There was an expansion upon that. the news and such. It's, I think it spikes everybody's anxiety when,
Yeah, absolutely.
thank you.
Thank you. Do we have, yes. Okay, Dr. Burnham.
Okay, so as the superintendent already indicated, she introduced her goals to you at the last school committee meeting. And the goals that are included in the district improvement plan and each of the school improvement plans are the goals that get to the heart of teaching and learning. The overarching goal that connects all of the goals is that if we strengthen core instruction and develop collaborative leadership at all levels within a safe, nurturing, and respectful learning environment, then we will dramatically increase student achievement and equip our students to be successful in the 21st century. So all of the goals that we will talk about now support this one. Based on the 2013 MCAS data, we developed 3 student learning goals. One focused on writing, one focused on reading, and one focused on math. So our writing focus is based on the fact that the district average in open response scores is 2.25 out of 4 on the 2013 ELA MCAS. Our goal is that teachers will use a writing rubric to determine a baseline for their students' writing levels. And by June 2014, 100% of students will improve their writing levels as measured by the same rubric. Literacy, based on the fact that 23% of students currently score warning or needs improvement on the 2013 ELA MCAS, my goal is that by June 2014, 10% of the students scoring needs improvement or warning and receiving reading support will score proficient on the 2014 MCAS. For math, based on the fact that 68% of students currently score proficient or advanced on the 2013 math MCAS assessment, my goal is that by June 2014, 78% will score proficient or advanced on the 2014 math MCAS. Now, supporting the academic goals, we have a data culture goal. In order to build district-wide data capacity and culture, the district will strategically support the effective use and meaningful collegial collaboration around data through district and school data teams, departmental data use, and teacher data cycle implementation. We will monitor our progress towards this goal by increasing one level on our instructional data use rubric. And our new data specialist will be helping to drive this goal. Additionally, the employee evaluations that we have to implement this year, based on the fact that teachers and administrators are required by the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education to participate in the new teacher and administrator evaluation tool during the 2013-14 school year. Our goal is to, 1, effectively implement this new system for 100% of our teachers, and 2, that 100% of our teachers will see student achievement increase supported by the use of this tool as measured by an end-of-year survey. So the superintendent's charge to the principals in the development of their school improvement plans this year was that all of the school improvement plans align with the district plan for student achievement, and that their plans should be data-driven with measurable statements for each improvement item, and that progress on each item during the current year must be able to be documented and have measurable goals to reach gap-having targets. That goes back to our accountability level, PPI, under the Massachusetts NCLB waiver. This evening, each of the principals will present their school improvement plans. During the presentation, they will go over the goals that are targeted to the student learning elements, either reading, writing, and math. All of the schools incorporated into their school improvement plans the data culture goal and the employee evaluation goal, but we won't focus on those this evening. So the first presentation this evening will be on the Boutwell Early Childhood Center, so I'd ask head teacher Jen Mahan to come up. Oh, actually, she'll be joined.
School-based, but also collaborative.
So joining Jen Mahan, the head teacher at the Boutwell School, is the head teacher of the Wildwood Early Childhood Center.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Thank you for having us.
My name is Erin Burke. I am the head teacher at the Wildwood Early Childhood Center.
And I'm Jennifer Mahan, the head teacher at the Boutwell Early Childhood Center.
And we're choosing to present together tonight because our goals are collaborative goals in nature. However, we will be focusing on individual school data. So we'll share our goals together, but in our action steps, but share our own personal numbers, as I know you have them in your own school improvement plans.
Okay, so the Boutwell is first. Our literacy goal is based on the fact that 43% of students scored below or well below the Massachusetts early literacy norms as measured by Ames Web Letter Naming Fluency. At the end of the 2013 school year, our goal is that by June 2014, 85% of the students will score at or above the target on the same assessment. We will monitor progress towards this goal by progress monitoring the students 3 times a year. We've built in some intervention blocks into our schedule to help target this area, just to help increase that letter awareness for the kindergarten level students. As for our math goal, it is based on the fact that 25% of students scored below or well below average in the area of number recognition at the end of the 2013 school year. Our goal is that by June of 2014, 15% of students will score at or above the target as determined on the district math assessments. We will monitor our progress towards this goal twice a year. And again, we've implemented the Common Core standards for kindergarten. We're utilizing some new math binders. We have our intervention blocks, so we're going to really drive home that number recognition for the kindergarten students.
In addition to that, we've also implemented data team meetings at the Early Childhood Center thanks to the support of our new data specialist, Jen White. She's helped out tremendously at our level, figuring out how to make data make sense at the kindergarten level, because that's something that I know you probably are all thinking in your head. How do you use data to drive early childhood education, especially when we're still worried about the developmental appropriateness and making sure those social emotional needs are still met. So Jen has been wonderful in supporting us at our level to say, how can we utilize this to drive instruction and be the foundation of all of these goals in support of the district goal. The Wildwood Early Childhood Center, the goal is identical with the exception of the fact that we've adjusted our numbers according to our local school data. So I don't want to bore you all by rereading it. Our numbers are just slightly different.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sure.
I just got a little confused by the Boutwell. If you go back a few, right there, it says 15% of students will score at or above the target. Is that above the, or are you saying only 15% will score below or average?
We want the increase to be that more kids are above the target. More kids know their numbers automatically.
Okay.
Does that make it clarify it a little bit?
Yeah,
better?
I guess. I just got a little confused.
I think the wording.
25 to 10.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay,
That are
that's,
below.
okay,
Yes.
thank you. That's what I thought. I just was a little confused by the wording. Thank you.
I have a question, two questions. One, in the process, when they're taking these tests, when the little students are taking the test, are each of this teacher, is there somebody giving them the test, or is it the actual teacher? Is it the aide in the room? Who's giving the test?
That's a very good question. For the Ames Web assessment that we're speaking to right here,
Right.
it is the classroom teacher that's administering that assessment. The educational assistants at that time is assuming the responsibility of running whatever the activity is while the teacher assesses.
Right.
Because this data, we want it to
So
be.
are they in the classroom with everybody else, talking away or doing whatever they're doing?
It varies based on each classroom. Some classroom teachers take them to a quiet area in the classroom. The activity that's going on is generally not a loud activity during the assessment time.
Because I'm thinking that if you've got, how many kindergartens we have, say we had 10, and we have 10 different people giving this test, giving the assessment, because they're each giving their own to their own students, then are they all giving it exactly the same way? If they're having discussion in one classroom and not in another, but just for when you do test taking, I'm just curious about how that might affect the results. And maybe there's no other way to do it, but I'm just thinking as far as when you're trying to get data, and maybe Jen, when you're trying to bring forward data, and if Kathleen gave her test one way in her room and I'm giving it a different way in my room, does that affect the data?
I mean, it's a standardized assessment.
The Ames Web is standardized.
So basically, the classroom teacher is showing the student a sheet of paper with the letters on it, and they're asking them to identify in 1 minute as many letters as they can. That's the assessment.
And the teacher's provided with a script of what to say exactly to the student.
So you just brought up another point for me, though, in 1 minute.
This particular assessment is a timed assessment. We do have our progress monitoring portion that we speak about in our action steps. There is a timed portion, and then we have an untimed assessment so that we can identify down to the letter level what letters each student uses, and that's the data that we're using in our data meetings to say, okay, which students in our classroom know which letters, and we're grouping students accordingly and then targeting our instruction.
Okay, I get all that, but on the other hand, I feel like, I felt this way before about those papers that the kids get home, and they have to have 4 minutes to do those 20 items or 40 items, whatever. I'm not sure why we need to do that with the timing, and especially on a test like this. But that's just me. I can't see that the timing, to me, I have one grandchild who would go zip, zip, zip through it, and another one who would go, oh, don't. And just because of the type of child they are, or the type of learner that they are, I think that timing element.
The processing piece is what I think you might be discussing that. And that's a good question with regards to those children who might not be flagged per se, but might just have a slower processing piece. How I think that the factual of the actuality of the assessment.
Well, there are students that have accommodations, so any student that has an ed plan that talks about a need for extra time would get extra time.
I think also that the fact is that this assessment is meant to be just an early predictor of reading success. So this is to help us gain a quick glance into students who need extra support. The untimed portion that we're giving them monthly for those struggling students, it is a time that kids can take that processing time to say what letters do they actually know, so that we can compare it. So we're not only using this one assessment. That's the data that we're looking at is the Ames Web data, which is the time data, but the progress monitoring that we're doing monthly for the struggling students is untimed. Does that help clarify a little bit? Because
I didn't realize we had that extra.
Yes, we have that also.
Right, okay. Because I have to think, when I look at that, we do not have that many children who are leaving here who don't know their numbers, who cannot identify 1 to 0. Do you know what I mean? 1 to 10, 1 to 9, or 8 to 9, when you say this up here. I just find this is, if we didn't time them, I almost feel like we'd have 100, not 100%, but you'd have a higher percentage, but that's just what I'm thinking as you look at this. But you know best, so thank you.
Other questions? Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Will we have, at the midway point, will we be kind of given a heads up as to how the progress we're in meeting our goals halfway?
I have to do that under state law, yes.
Oh, okay, thank you.
So they have to do it as well.
Okay.
Shashi? Lisa King and Bob Rapaloni.
Good evening.
Good evening.
And we'd just like to recognize again this year's SAC committee members. We have been very fortunate to have members very active. We have equal amount of teacher representatives and parent representatives. And our community member has been hanging on now for over 6 years, and so we're very pleased with that. So he was a former teacher, taught in Germany math, and he just keeps on coming back. So we're very happy to have him on board. So we want to thank all the members. And again, for the sake of not having to repeat, because the goals are basically the same, one of the first area that we're focused on in the writing, again, as we did a data analysis of the MCAS with the help again of our Jen White, who has been fantastic to work with, we notice again it's the open response area that seems to be dropping our scores. As you can see, it was a 1.90 out of 4. The confusing part for us is that when we're working with the children, doing the open responses on a regular basis with teacher help, they do fine. It's once when they have to get to the independent level that we see that drop. And when you realize these are just third graders taking a test for the first time in their own, and they have to now be completely on their own, it's an awful lot to ask. One of the things I've asked teachers, particularly at the third grade level, as we're working on this, is to focus more on independent practice so that we can get them used to doing this more on their own. I was very fortunate a couple of years ago to have teachers at each grade level do an independent project of coming up with open response for each of the themes in our Houghton Mifflin reading program. And this is what we're going to be using, and they've also established rubrics so they're going to be giving the test after the completion of each theme, recording student results, monitoring, and then having intervention go on as needed for those students who seem to be struggling with it. So it's our hope in addressing this that that's going to help us reach all students making improvements in this particular area. I'm going to ask my colleague, who is our Ames Web specialist here, to talk about our next goal with the reading.
So the literacy goal, it's going to be based on the fact that 25% of second grade students and 13% of third grade students currently scored below or well below the Massachusetts early literacy norms as measured by the Ames Web reading program. And in January, we will have the results for first grade, and we're going to use that percentage to measure. First grade doesn't do the reading CBM until January, and we do have the data for second and third grade. The reading CBM follows along with the letter naming and the letter sound, and it's a passage that students read, and that's where we get the measures. And then teachers put the students into different categories based on area of need from this assessment, such as fluency or rate, and then we provide interventions for those students and also progress monitor them monthly to see if they make progress using the same measure.
If I could just add that this year, I'm just so pleased because we're able to have full-time specialists and use them as interventionists. We have now built in a 90-minute uninterrupted literacy block for every teacher at each grade level. In addition, we've built in a half-hour intervention period every day. And Mrs. King has done an outstanding job. We're getting in the first full swing of the rotation this year, but teachers have identified the needs, whether it be in math or in reading, for each of the students. They're rotated among all our support staff, our specialists, that half hour, and getting that extra reinforcement in the area in which they need. It's called Win What I Need. So it has just reaped incredible benefits. As a result of WEF funds, we've been able to put together a literacy closet and a math closet that holds intervention skills and activities that can be used during these times by the interventionists and by the teachers. So we're getting into the full swing of it, and we're just very pleased with the initial results.
Thank you, Mr. Evelyn. You just read my mind because I forgot to ask the kindergarten teachers what the interventionist, I can't even say it, what that person did, what the role was, and what it meant.
And yet they're doing.
That sounds perfect.
I'm just so thrilled about it to have that opportunity. So.
If you walk through the building between 2:50 and 2:45, it will be a very busy place.
Nice.
They're all rotating.
Mrs. Burns.
Wait, quick question. And you'll have to kind of tell me what it looks like. Isn't third grade that time where they're just learning to become independent learners? I mean, how do you get kids who are just learning that aspect, and yet you're assessing it? I mean, I can see why you'd want to assess them, but they're just learning to be independent. So does that mean that independent piece should be starting earlier in the elementary?
And I think
aspect, less
we took-
support? I mean,
We took a look at that because we wanted to look at the open response, not only starting as third grade, think that's a focus, but all the way down to first grade.
Right.
We're trying to create a common language so that the kids are used to hearing these things in the vocabulary. So by the time they're coming to third grade,
They have
it's
better
more of a
skills.
tweaking and a refinement of it. And so we are encouraging at each grade level in a progressive manner and sort of a scaffolding to build up of those skills so that, yes, independence will even start at some level, probably mid to late second grade, where you're just starting to introduce some of that so that you can keep on building that into third grade.
is that where they, for reading, for instance, is that where they go from learning to read to reading to learn?
Basically catered to their learning to read. At 3, you're starting to see the shift where they're reading to learn.
Okay.
And that's a lot of the times when
And
you
that's
start
what's
to
tying-
see some of them fall,
Gotcha.
may have been getting by, start to have some difficulties.
But that's a big transition in their
It is
learning.
a huge transition.
And one of the
Experience.
really great things about this is that the Houghton Mifflin Reading Program, every open response question correlates to that week's theme.
Oh, good.
So it fits right in with their curriculum, and teachers develop the questions. So
Perfect, good. Thank you very much.
Dr. Quinn?
I noticed in the writing piece, and I may have missed it, you might have mentioned it, I don't see a specific measurable. Are you saying 100% of students to score better?
It's not in thanks for picking, it says, mine says all students as
Okay.
opposed to 100%. But
Okay.
that did not get into that one, but it's in the my school improvement plan, so you
Thank
could pick, that's all right. It's all students.
Okay.
And then finally, with the math, basically, we're working very closely with the elementary math coordinator, who's done a fabulous job aligning our trailblazers with the Common Core. And, there's some difficulty trying to make this transition, but it's a transition we have to make, and we're heading in the right direction with that. And again, because now we're able to identify kids who may be struggling in math too, and now we have the opportunity of interventions being able to come in and to work with students, we're hoping to see. And we did make an 8% increase this year, MCAS, so it's our hope that we're going to continue moving in that direction.
Any other questions? No, sir? No? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
invite Mr. Strasnick to join us with Assistant Principal Ferrio for the Woburn Street.
Good evening, thank you.
Good evening, thank you. So like Mr. Appalone, I'd very much like to thank the School Advisory Council for all their work. We still have Seisha Cody and Kristen Taza, who volunteered again. They were on it last year, wanted to be on it again this year, which I thought was a nice gesture. They want to see the work continue that we started last year, so special thank you to all of them. Again, not going through each and every one, but understanding that obviously in every area, writing, literacy, math, we want to improve. I think looking at last year's MCAS, our math was definitely our weakest area. So not to say we're not focusing on everything, but absolutely paying a little bit more close attention this year to our math scores. Many, if not all, of the classroom teachers, their own SMART goals, professional goals are around math. And so we've already begun doing some different things around math. Like they're doing at the Shawsheen, we also have win time, what I need time, which is every single day across all grades at the same time. So I believe it's 8:40 to 9 o'clock every day. All the kids are involved in some type of targeted instruction. But we also use our specialists, our art, music, PE, all those people are involved, helping students, working with teachers. And one of the things that we know just from experience and making any type of progress is teachers need time to collaborate. So that's a big focus also this year is Mr. Ferrio and I trying to find that time during the day where we can get teachers, grade level teachers, to meet and collaborate, whether it's about what's going on in their core instruction or what's going on at win time, finding resources, what's going well in your class, let me try that in my class. So we have that built in, and again, with Jen White and Lisa Ippolito, we have a pretty good plan in place to allow teachers to do that. Our reading specialists, their goals are focused around literacy, some of our most needy students, getting them back on track. And also for writing too, the teachers are participating in some writing professional development this year to hopefully address some of the, the weak areas that we have in writing. And, we're also doing a rubric. We'll be focusing on a rubric. So, give the teachers and the students, more specifics as far as what it is that they need to work on. So those are the things that we're working on with those areas.
Dr. Quick?
Going back to the writing, and I'm noticing this in all the schools that I'm looking at,
Yep.
they all say 100% of the students to improve, but there's no, if we're talking measurable, you see that the response score for Woburn Street, for example, is 1.91 out of 4.
Right.
You want 100% of students to improve is a 2.0 improvement? I mean, why is there not a number there?
Right. I think because what we're doing, part of that goal is developing a rubric. So we're going to use that rubric to see how students progress. So the first step is developing the rubric in partnership with Kathy Macklis and their ELA vertical team, and developing a rubric, and then from that, getting a baseline. So where are the students performing? How are they scoring now? And then at the end of the year, having every student make some progress. And when you look at a rubric, it breaks it down into, voice, type of words kids use. So it breaks it down more specific so you can see different types of progress.
And this will be the first year that we have data around a rubric, so we could use that data next year to gauge what a good game would look like. We don't have any data to base that on.
Okay.
So we want all students to show improvement, but we're not quantifying the improvement target this year because we are gathering baseline data this year, and we can use that moving forward.
Thank you.
I don't know if this would cause more problems than less, but knowing that at least by 5th grade, they're writing paragraphs at home. They're being sent home with writing, which is very exciting for me. But would you ever consider giving the rubric to the parents?
Oh, yeah, that's going to be
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Good, maybe we could do that, because that would definitely give a focus for the parents, and the parents aren't going, oh, that's really good, and they really didn't cover anything that we're looking for in the rubric.
I think it'll be helpful too. I mean, in my experience using rubrics, a rubric is a great thing to bring to a parent-teacher conference.
Yes.
And say, here's your child's, overall writing score, but this is how it breaks down into specific things that they need to work on or where they're doing really well.
Right, that would be terrific if you could do that at some point. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
And next, I'd invite Principal Hope Doran to the table, and I guess you'll be joined by Principal Shaw from the
Got
west.
some Red Sox fans in the group tonight.
So we'll start with the north.
Okay, sure. And this is our school advisory council. We have a 4th grade parent representative and a 5th grade parent representative, as well as a 5th grade teacher and the school guidance counselor. And our goals are very similar to the other schools that have presented. In writing, we looked at our MCAS from last year, and our average open response score was 2.13, and our goal this year is to bring that average up to a 2.75. For writing, we're trying to work on writing across the curriculum with students this year. So whether they're writing in science or social studies, cross-curricular writing, we are going to do 2 school-wide open responses and have teachers score those and gather data to see for improvement and provide interventions to students along the way. For literacy, we have 33% of students score in warning or needs improvement. Our goal is that by June, 10% of these students and receive reading support will score proficient on the MCAS. These are going to be monitored. They're going to be working with a reading specialist. We targeted students that were 235 or below on MCAS and needed reading support, had reading support in the past. Our reading specialist screened them and is working with them twice a week right now. So working with them individually at their instructional level twice a week. And she's going to be doing monitored pre- and post-test with students to see that they're hitting their targets. And for math, we have a really kind of big focus at our school on math this year. And I'm really excited. We're doing a lot of data work around math at the North this year, based on the fact that 59% of students currently score proficient or advanced. Our goal is that 69% of our students will score proficient or advanced. And we're really, really specifically targeting data this year. Jen White has been great and has been helping us a lot, as well as Lisa Ippolito. We had a staff meeting today, and that's what we did. We took some incoming fourth grade data, incoming fifth grade data, and looked at specific questions that students struggled with and specific students that struggled with those questions to kind of troubleshoot where they might have gone wrong. And then we had some lessons that teachers can use as interventions to kind of assess and make sure that they get that skill that they didn't have. We're doing math benchmark tests, and Lisa Ippolito is working individually with teachers to look at their individual students and target them. And in January, we're going to start an after-school program for students in the needs improvement or warning, and it's going to be twice a week to kind of target those students where they need support.
That's exactly what I've been waiting to hear, and I love that the teachers, you're working on the individual, the questions and seeing which questions work and don't work. That's really great. Thank you.
And for the West, myself, we have a couple of parents, Lisa Ward and Rhonda Rubin. She's new to the West this year, so thank you, Mr. Apolloni, for sending Mrs. Rubin our way. And we have Phyllis Green and Kelly Sullivan as our two teachers again. Again, you've seen the numbers, you've seen the goals, our writing. We always prided ourselves in the North and West of being so close together, doing things together. We have the exact same writing score, 2.13. You know, and our goal obviously is to improve that. You've heard us talk about rubrics. Hopefully the repetition is driving home the fact that we're all doing the same thing. We're really working together in this and trying to focus all of our efforts on making these things happen. Literacy, again, you know, looking for the 10% increase in the scoring for the needs improvement and wanting students, and we're working on a specific vocabulary program with those students. The reading specialist is working on that specifically. In the math, we had 65% of students, you know, currently score proficient or advanced. We're shooting for 75%. To put that in a number, you know, that makes sense. That's 25 kids in my building, you know. So it's reachable, it's doable, you know. And we presented it to the staff that way, that these are numbers that we can achieve. And again, you know, kudos to Jen White for getting us, you know, thinking about things in a new way and looking at them in a new way as well. You know, we've always had good luck kind of breaking down math, you know, math questions and stuff like that to see what kids get tripped up on math problems and things. Now we're doing that with the open response questions as well. We're going back to the questions that we've been using and looking at those questions and saying, okay, are they aligned with the Common Core? And are they asking us what we think they're asking us? You know, so we're breaking these questions down, you know, creating these really helpful, almost like teacher cheat sheets that we can use going forward that allow us to evaluate the students' performance on these questions to see if they're actually going to help us to improve their writing skills. And again, we've carved out, you know, a small chunk of time each week where I can get a whole grade level of teachers together on a weekly basis, and we're looking at, you know, specific things. You know, if we gave the Unit 1 test, we're looking at student, you know, responses, student, you know, progress on the Unit 1 test, and now what we're going to do is, okay, let's find the kids who did well and group them for a couple of days and let them work with a different teacher on high-level stuff. Let's find the kids who didn't do well. Let's send them someplace else for a couple of days, you know, with another teacher, and let's work with those guys and try to target these specific things that come up every time a test is given that we have data that we can act on. So that's the biggest, I guess, change this year, and improvement this year in the fact that we've always worked hard, but now we're very, very focused on exactly what we're trying to accomplish.
Absolutely. Mrs. Jones.
I have two questions.
Sure.
First, I want to commend you because at the West, I see that as part of an action plan that you've set up for those who are an advanced or an high proficient for the math piece, an Olympiad Club Before School. I think that is an important piece to target, that although we are trying to make gains and close that gap, that we also focus on those that are high achievers, and that we continue to groom them, especially getting into the middle school so that we can pick it up there. And I have to say that I believe, and I'd be happy to be corrected if I'm wrong.
But to be fair, the North does it as well, so I don't want to take
Oh,
credit
okay,
for that.
forgive me, but
we
to
both
see it as an
have a
action
grade
plan,
four,
I think
yeah.
it's just as important to, and if it is throughout the schools, fabulous. I think it's important to include it because I think it's also can't be forgotten that they're competing against their own higher marks to continue that. And I think that is, granted, it might not be the biggest of our concerns, but I think it's still an important piece to include in an action piece, that we don't lose anybody in the mix as we're working on the other end. And I have a question with regards to the employee evaluation piece as we go through it. I know the district school improvement piece, it's 100% of the teachers will, I might be misunderstanding, we'll see student achievement, and then I see it in some schools, evaluations, and in others, only 50%. We'll see. Am I misinterpreting and misreading it?
50% of the teachers will complete the full evaluation. We're on a two-year cycle.
Okay, that's what I wasn't sure, because I was confused how 100% would do it in one school and not, you know what I mean? I was expecting it. Okay, thank you very much. That's all I had. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
While they're walking away, I just want to mention that in the teacher's contract, we have added the Math Olympiad for the for the intermediate schools. That's the club that they do for the high achieving students. So.
Sometimes if I don't see it, I don't know it exists.
The school committee is supporting that.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Now we'll invite Principal McMiniman from the middle school.
Good evening, welcome.
Just wanted to also, as the other groups have, recognize the school council. We have our administrators, we have our teacher representatives, happen to be both from the English Language Arts Department, and two parents, Chris LeBlanc and Lori Ryan. And the parents have been extremely supportive in our efforts to move the building forward, and we appreciate their efforts. As you can see, we have our 3 goals, right aligned with the district goals. For writing, based on the fact that the district average open response score, it's our school average is 2.29 out of 4. You can see, actually, now that you've seen all of the schools come before me, that average increases as the students get older, and it increases again at the high schools. So the longer they are with us, the better they do as they go toward the 10th grade test. So we will also be using the rubric and determining a baseline, and we will expect that 100% of the students will improve their writing at some level by the end of the school year. Some of the ways that we're going to do that are specific actions. We're going to very much focus on using the data cycle, and that is having a prompt, scoring the prompt, getting the data right back to the teachers as quickly as possible, discussing that data with the principal, assistant principals, the data coach, Jen White, who's been mentioned this evening, as well as Dr. Kathy Macklis, the K-12 ELA coordinator, and really focusing in on where the kids are breaking down, and then going in and planning lessons to target and reteach some of the skills that the kids are not quite adept at in writing. So that is a big piece that we are going to focus on, and Kathy Macklis is going to provide some heavy support at the middle school, focusing on some specific teachers with the data cycle and communicating with me through planned meetings throughout the entire year. Obviously, in reading, we are very similar in the fact that, based on the fact that 27% of students currently score warning or needs improvement from 2013. Our goal is that we are going to move up to 31% of those students who receive reading support and are currently in the warning and the needs improvement category. We want to get them to proficient. And for us, that number is about 45 students. And that, again, as Mr. Shaw said, that is doable. It's a reachable number because they are receiving everyday reading support that's of a remedial nature, and they're going to be focusing on identifying details and evidence, inference skills, finding the main idea, recognizing the author's purpose, and sequencing. All of those skills that they will be needing to use when they're reading passages and going back and answering comprehension questions. Math, we are also looking for a 10% gain. Currently, we have 65% of our middle school students in the proficient and advanced range, and we are hoping to move that by June of 2014 to 75%. We are also going to be implementing the data cycle in math. We will also have 3 benchmarks, similar to what Mrs. Doran had mentioned at the intermediate schools. And working with Assistant Superintendent Burnham and the data coach, making sure that those benchmarks take place at the right time during the year to match up with which standards have been taught. So last year was our first year implementing the Common Core. Now we have that year under our belt, and we know where the standards are taught a bit better. Now we can put the benchmarks in the right place to give us important information of which standards students are not mastering. Then again, meeting, going back, which students are not mastering those, and putting in another lesson or a targeted lesson and adjusting our practice to make sure the students do get it retaught. And really using that data cycle 3 times this year and working directly with the teachers. And one other thing I will just mention, that at the end of the year, we certainly will have to evaluate our enhanced math pathway. This is the first year that we're implementing this at the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade level. So we will have to take a look at the standards we covered, how the year went, whether or not we have to adjust our curriculum maps, etc.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? I would just like to say that your presentation in this paperwork and what you just said tonight, we're getting more and more specific and focused as we go up in the grades, which is how it should be. Mm-hmm. But starting actually with the North and the West and coming in, you have it so clearly focused as to what you're working on. And I think that was excellent.
Everybody is definitely moving in the same direction.
Yes, they're all, yes. It really shows that we're got it in hand. Thank you.
Thank you.
And finally, I would invite Principal Peters to come up and present the high school improvement plan.
While Linda's walking up, I just want to acknowledge, on behalf of all of us, again, Jen White, who's sitting here in the audience tonight, who's done tremendous work with all of the schools, and we thank you.
It's going to be one of my questions at the end of this as to how often she's able, how many schools she was able to get to, but it seems pretty clear that she got to everybody. Mm-hmm. So thank you, Jen, we appreciate it. Good job.
Good evening.
Ms. Peters.
I would like to thank our SAC members. We met this week to review the school improvement plan, and we spent about an hour and a half discussing all the goals, so I think they're really on board with what we have in place. Our goals are a little bit different at the high school. The writing goal, since our MCAS scores don't actually dictate that we focus on writing specifically at the high school, I wrote the goal based on the NEASC recommendation and the teacher's analysis of students' communication skills. And our goal is that each department will impact student achievement in communicating by determining a method for benchmarking student communication growth, a minimum of 4 times per year, and adjusting instruction to increase student communication skills compared to a baseline assessment. Based on some of the conversations I've had with the curriculum team leaders over the past several weeks in dealing with individual teachers' goals, we talked about some suggested communication focus areas. It will be writing for history, ELA, science, and math, the math being the open response component as well as performance assessments. The foreign language department is taking on a focus of speaking as communication, and the business and performing and visual arts actually will be working on presentation skills. I will work with the CTLs. We will determine exactly what communication skills we're going to target in each department, and we will come up with benchmark assessments along with the teachers and rubrics that we will use to analyze those skills. I intend to meet with individual teacher representatives from every department so that I can review the data and also discuss the progress along the lines of becoming an effective communicator, which is one of our academic expectations. The second goal is around math, which is my favorite. And we have done well on math MCAS. However, we would like to improve as well. And based on the fact that 92% of students scored proficient or advanced and 4% scored failing on the 2013 math MCAS assessment, our goal is by June 2014, 95% will score proficient or advanced and only 2% will remain failing on the 2014 MCAS math assessment. And we will do this in, among the math teachers. I have shared data with them. We analyze data, but we are going to work with the data a little bit differently this year. And we are going to develop a pre-MCAS assessment for all 10th graders and develop assessments throughout the year, both formative and summative, to target standards for which proficiency has not yet been met. And I will meet with those teachers monthly, mostly during department meetings, to monitor the students' progress towards proficiency in that area.
Thank you. Do you have any questions? Great job. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I also like to, again, acknowledge Dr. Burnham, who actually took all of this work that they did and put into a format for you to understand it.
I would say, honestly, that kudos to the entire leadership team, because the level of work and the hours spent to really analyze the data to this level to develop these goals, it was quite a commitment. And again, Jen White, our new data specialist, has been absolutely instrumental in starting to shift the culture around data use. So thank you all.
I would say the way it was presented too was it was easier for us.
Yeah.
Great
So
team.
very excellent.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
all for coming out tonight. Anyone
you.
know the score yet?
Paul?
No score yet?
Nobody wants to stick around?
Drive carefully.
Good night.
Good night, thank you. Boy, once they thought they could go, went.
Annually, the Wilmington School Committee needs to appoint the superintendent to the SEAM Collaborative Board of Directors, so I need.
I would entertain a motion to appoint Superintendent Joanne Benton to the Board of Directors of the SEAM Collaborative for the 2013-2014 year. Mrs. Bonish.
I'll make a motion to appoint Superintendent Joanne Benton to the Board of Directors of the SEAM Collaborative for the 2013-14 school year.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Mrs. Burns. All those in favor? Unanimous, Linda. Thank you. Oh. Thank you. And our next item is Superintendent of Schools' letter of resignation for retirement purposes.
Dear members of the Wilmington School Committee, this correspondence is my formal notification that I will retire effective July 2nd, 2014. It is after much reflection and consultation with my family and with great mixed emotions that I made this decision. I want to thank you all for the honor and privilege of leading this outstanding school district for the past 7 years. For 40 years, I've enjoyed every minute of being in education, but none more than my time in Wilmington. In Wilmington, I found an incredibly generous community that truly appreciates its youth and honors its elders. I found incredibly caring school committee members who volunteered their time and sacrificed family life to service the schools. I'm sorry they didn't stay. I found an inspiring group of administrators who work together daily to make teachers' job a success. I found intellectually curious students who still retain the values of respect from bygone years. And lastly, I found a staff that truly cares about Wilmington and the students they teach. I am grateful that I've been blessed to work with such world-class people who lay their hearts on the line for students of all kinds and who never give up on them. I will always be indebted to the Wilmington community for welcoming me so warmly and supporting our vision for the schools. Lastly, I wish you well with the opening of the new high school. Sorry. I leave a piece of my heart in that building, knowing that it will serve our students well for many years to come. Respectfully submitted, Joanne Benton. Sorry.
No, not at all. I think there are going to be many occasions later on in the year for us to comment and to...
You need a motion that you have to formally accept it.
I don't want to.
we have to
Can we make a
vote on
motion
it?
now?
Who said we had to? If we all voted no, what would happen?
You'd all be coming home with me tonight.
Okay. Mr. Fenton would be pleased. All right, then I'll entertain a motion to accept the superintendent's letter of resignation for purpose of retirement. Dr. Quick.
I move to regrettably accept Joanne Benton's letter of resignation for retirement purposes.
That's good. Okay. You have a second? Mrs. Carroll. All those in favor?
Oh, I can't.
Oh, I don't know. Unanimous, Linda. Thank you. Unanimous, thank you. And there'll be other occasions, and we all have things that we'll be saying, so that night we'll bring Kleenex for sure. Thank you. Public comments?
We have another piece to discuss.
Add the resolutions.
Addition to the agenda.
Oh, yes, at the end.
This is our last meeting prior to conference.
Thank you. It wasn't written, sorry.
Sorry.
No, that's all right. You know what, I'm going to have, then, would you mind carrying on that conversation?
No.
Because,
Try to keep this, I'll keep it brief, and if anyone has any questions, please speak up.
because MJ's going to be our representative there, so.
There are actually 4 new resolutions to be considered at the delegation meeting at conference in 2 weeks. The last one, which is the 5th resolution, is actually resolutions that we voted on this time last year. They're being brought up again with regards to a continuation of working towards the legislative piece as representatives in working towards, and once we get there. The first resolution deals with funding for K through 12 transient student success, which the resolution would assure that our schools receive the resources needed to teach properly this population of underserved students and to provide supports and services necessary for their academic achievement. Presently, schools must often rely on hasty assessments based on insufficient and unknown data. The resolution would help improve school climate, increase the graduation rate, ensure equity within districts and across the Commonwealth, and alleviate the financial burden on school districts with high percentages of immigrant and mobile students. I would vote, I would vote yes for this resolution for MASC to accept.
I agree with you, with your recommendation.
Good.
Am I supposed to
Does
make
everyone
recommendations?
agree?
Do we have to vote on that?
Individually?
No, we'll vote at the end that
Okay,
MJ will
vote on that?
represent us. Yeah.
Okay.
You take the superintendent's recommendation, then we'll say the.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay. Resolution 2 deals with performance assessment for readiness for college and career. My favorite. This resolution encompasses that MASC will call upon the governor to petition the Mass Board of Elementary and Secondary Education, and that MASC also petition the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education to direct the commissioner to allow sufficient time for educators to prepare schools for the new testing system and for cities, towns, and school districts to secure appropriate and adequate technology services and devices to administer the PARC program.
I strongly support this resolution.
The next one is teacher evaluations. The rationale to this resolution is that the educator evaluation regulations being implemented by the Commissioner of Elementary and Secondary Education increases the burden of school administration and fail to address the costs associated with yet another unfunded mandate. MASC believes this failure increases the likelihood that this critical effort to improve teacher evaluations will, therefore, not succeed. This resolution will correct that deficiency, provide an improved career ladder for teachers, and decrease the trust gap that currently exists in the evaluation of teachers.
Support it.
Mm-hmm. Resolution 4.
Especially the funding.
Especially, yes, sir. Resolution 4 is the evaluation of the Commissioner of Education. This, yeah.
We like this one.
I like this one, too.
I really like this one.
Okay, this resolution supports, MASC supports the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education be requested to solicit and consider in the evaluation process for the Commissioner of Elementary and Secondary Education meaningful input and comment from stakeholder constituencies, including school committees, superintendents, parents, and other stakeholders, and further, that aggregated comments and input from stakeholder constituencies be made available for public review. Further be resolved that subsequent iterations of the teacher surveys previously known as TELMAS or TELS-B revised to solicit feedback from educators about the performance of the Commissioner and Department of Elementary and Secondary Education and the impact of that performance on local district effectiveness, customer service performance, and morale.
I think leadership at the top should have the same kind of evaluation as we go through, so I think it's really great.
And then with Resolution 5, it's confirming actions from 2002, which is the establishment of a special commission of the legislature for the study of mandated reports and data submissions for school districts. Basically, this is creating, if I'm correct, creating a commission to evaluate proposed reports and data requests prior to them being rolled out in school districts as to whether or not, before they become mandates, to see if they'd be, I'm not articulating it appropriately, but as opposed to implementing it without possible useful purpose, that they would look at these mandates, break down the costs as to how much it would cost school districts, like analyze them before they're put forth, if that's, am I saying that accurately?
Yes, that's
okay.
right, yes.
Thank you. On the Resolution 2 piece from last year, it's the modification of the circuit breaker formula, which basically is asking for an increase to our circuit breaker accounts with reimbursement to the school districts. Resolution 3 is the health insurance coverage for medically necessary treatment in schools, which deals with it goes to speaking to billing insurances for some of the costs that schools encompasses. I know the reason for this was surrounded by Obamacare. And I'll say my opinion as we go through it. I'm sorry. Resolution 4 is funding for the educator evaluation system, basically looking for funding to implement the teacher evaluations. And then the last resolution from last year was a relative to an adequacy study. It's not the last one, excuse me. It's MASC's reaffirms its advocacy positions on funding of the public schools by calling upon the general court to take steps necessary to determine appropriate funding level for public schools and to make adjustments in the foundation budget and Chapter 70 funding formulas. To reviewing that and funding those budgets adequately, and because there's some things that they've budgeted that have been just ridiculously lowballed. So helping districts get more in those budgets. And then the Resolution 6 from last year was the election of governing boards of Commonwealth charter schools, which really, we have a say, but I don't, it pertains changing how boards on charter schools get put on the board, whether they're elected, appointed, or, I think those are the only two aspects, right? So, I don't know how you...
So all of them, does anyone have a negative on A, or they all look good?
The only thing that I will speak out against, as I did last year, was under the Resolution 5, is the health insurance coverage. I know that was created surrounding the Obamacare and as a measure to reimburse schools. I still don't know what that looks like for individuals on those plans and whether or not they have a cap on services. And that would be my only concern, that if there is a cap with regards to like OT or physical therapy, then those students who receive outside services in conjunction on top of what they're receiving in school, it might hinder them. And that's my biggest concern. It would hinder, I think, the whole family dynamics and finances.
Yes.
And also, too, is that insurance, if they need a walker, carriage, or a stand or anything, they won't be able to get one for home and one for school. They're only allowed so much equipment per year. So if the school's charging our insurance, then that kid will have to take it home every day.
And that's,
you know, it would be a huge
I know
burden
school
to that
districts are-
family.
I know school districts are looking, saying definitely this will be and I agree with that aspect, but not at the cost of our students.
Right.
And their ability to succeed in their community outside of our structure. And I think too many schools are not looking at that piece. And that's my biggest concern. And I just can't personally move forward with that piece.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Do we agree that that would be okay for Nick to?
Yeah, I just have a
Dr.
quick
Quick?
question. Was this the same resolution, the same one from last year?
Yeah.
And it just didn't pass
These
last
are
year?
all
so
the
the-
same.
It passed, but I guess, I think it's, as to,
I think they didn't go anywhere, and so they want to bring them back forward so that they can push them again this year.
yeah,
Because I heard
that's
it, I said,
exactly
wait a
what it
minute,
is.
we just did that one last.
Yeah.
Okay.
These were good. The last, Resolution 5 is some of the resolutions that they're going to continue to try to.
Right, yep, agreed.
Excellent.
Good luck.
Yes, thank you very much. We appreciate that.
So all in agreement? How would you feel about that Resolution 5? Just so that I'm clear, that I understand how you want me to, Resolution 3 under Resolution 5 from last year? You vote no on it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure I'm clear.
Yeah, you can vote no on that. Sounds good. And then if they tell you during the discussion that it's not the way that you thought it was negatively, then you can vote yes if it turns out to be. So it's totally up to you.
Speak out to it. But
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, our next item, other reports, subcommittee reports.
Believe it or not, I was
Any?
not at a meeting. Our policy committee met a couple of weeks ago, and we talked about our food allergy policies, and we had our...
Can you talk just a little bit?
Sorry.
Can you hear?
We can't?
Soft tonight, sorry.
We had our policy subcommittee meeting a couple of weeks ago, and we talked about our food allergy guidelines in the schools. We had the committee and some parents. There were, I think, 4 parents there, plus Mary Palin and Doreen Crow, just to talk about some issues. And we're actually meeting again on the same subject on November 14th at 8 o'clock at 8 a.m. at the Roman House. And we're just going to talk about options, some changes and options that we have.
Good. All right, thank you. Do we have
This
Mrs.
is
Broussard?
on our Superintendent Search Subcommittee. That's a mouthful. At this point, we have sent out requests for proposals based on our vote at the last meeting to 3 companies. We gave them a 2-week notice. I have not received any response as of yet, but it's still early. So my hope is that I will get some information in time to bring forth to the board at that point.
Thank you. Okay. Mrs. Burns?
I met with Representative Jim Maselli last Tuesday night with regards to the park piece that is steamrolling down the line, and we'll probably open up more discussion for future as this rolls out, but he's very supportive with helping us on the state side to support the concerns that we as a district have with regards to this rollout. And I will be meeting with, as I said, Representative Gordon, as well as Representative Peace, who's the joint chair of the Education Committee at the state level, to continue this conversation. So I just thought I'd let you know if anyone has any additional concerns or questions that do arise, please let me know.
Excellent. You're going above and beyond, going into Boston, et cetera.
Oh, but I get free parking at the State House.
Oh, that's good.
I know. I'm a little nervous. I don't know how to navigate that garage.
Okay, just 2 things. We should have mentioned this when Mrs. Broussard.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah. For the superintendent search, I contacted our lawyer because I wanted to make sure that Mrs. Carroll and I were doing the right thing. And we've been informed that I myself cannot participate because I have a relative working in the school system. So that we can do I can do everything else, but I can't participate in any of the votes, et cetera. And Mrs. Carroll, same.
Yep.
thing,
Because
so,
I'm a cafeteria worker.
yeah. So we just have to, we were told we have to say it out in public so that people know for transparency, and so we wish you well. I was at the CPAC meeting on October 10th, and the one thing coming up, there's going to be a program, communication in the IEP, but I think they hadn't settled on the date. They haven't settled on the date yet.
I think they were waiting.
Waiting,
They're waiting
so-
for the
Well,
Federation.
we can watch for that. They give excellent programs through the CPAC. So I'll let you know when that's coming, if anyone's interested in that. Okay, correspondence.
I have a quick one. I'll read it fast. So this is from the WTA to Ms. Peggy Kane. Dear Ms. Kane, pursuant to MGL-C 150E and Article 21, Section 2 of the existing contract between the Wilmington School Committee and the Wilmington Teachers Association, the WTA is notifying the school committee of its desire to enter into bargaining for a successor agreement. Please contact us so that we may set up mutually convenient dates to begin this process. Sincerely, Joseph Klaponis, WTA President.
Thank you.
And he will be getting dates to me, they're thinking hopefully to start in November, and I'll be getting some dates.
Great. And so do we have anybody who might be interested in participating?
I told you, I'm available.
Randy and MJ. Okay, so I'll appoint you both to the the successor agreement, the MTA successor agreement. Not MTA, WTA. Sorry. Excellent. And future meeting dates and agenda items, we don't meet again till November 13th, which is the town meeting. That's at, I believe, at the middle school. It's at the middle school. So we'll see you there. And then November 20th will be our meeting in November. And I think
Just a
that's
thought,
it.
if Julie does have response, you could have a half-hour meeting before town meeting if we post it for, if you need it. We need 2 days ahead to post.
Good to know.
Oh, okay, great, thank you.
I got a quick note.
Yes.
Sox are up 3-0.
Okay, I'll entertain a
that.
motion to adjourn. Mrs. Broussard.
Adjourn.
Second, Dr. Quick. All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night. Go Sox.
Don't run me over, we ran out.